Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the RepPath Podcast. Today, guys, we're going to talk about and get a little bit deeper into how to stand out in a medical sales interview. And honestly, guys, you don't even have to be in the medical sales path to apply some of these techniques. They can be used basically in any interview process. So we want to walk you through that. But before we get into it, as always, guys, if you want to get this recording of this podcast and any of the other content that we create, please make sure you go on YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. Excuse me. You see the link below. Click on that link, subscribe. It's free, so you can get all the content that we come out with and see these podcast recordings. Also, for today, any information, any questions, please, guys, submit it into the chat. And then James will take care of that and field those questions, and we'll address them about halfway through the show. Most importantly, guys, the RepPath Academy. You guys reach out all the time. I see all you on LinkedIn. Anyone that is an aspiring medical sales rep, you have to reach out to us and sign up for the RepPath Academy. We are going to help you break into this industry. This is what we do every day. So don't try to do a self-diagnosis, say, I think it's my resume or might be my interviewing. I think I answered that question incorrectly. Guys, trust me, I did this too. And that's why we developed this program. We're going to cover everything. We're going to cover how to properly network. We're going to cover how to interview prep, how to optimize your LinkedIn, how to optimize your resume, and many, many more modules that we go over. But we're going to cover all these things to make sure that you stand out from the hundreds of applicants that apply to these jobs every day. Again, I've said it before, we get 300 to 500 applicants within a couple of days on average. I'm Joe Licata, the owner and founder of RepPath. And also, please go on RepPath.com. You could see backgrounds of the program, has some commonly asked questions, but also you could see the testimonials on there that you can see previous candidates that have found success and were able to break into the industry. So check it out, RepPath.com. Any other questions, you could DM me, and we'd love to get you started so you can help you break into this industry. So that's it. And James, did I even forget anything? Think we're good?
You got everything.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy. So let's dive right in, guys. How do we stand out in the interview process? Now, like I said before, I'm saying this. I usually say I don't want to scare you, but forget that, guys. This is to scare you, okay? Because it's very real. Everyone wants to get into medical sales, okay? You don't have to be a bio major. You don't have to be a chem major. Doesn't matter what your background is, what major you graduated with. A lot of reps, they see that, well, you can make a lot of money. You have freedom. You get to help patients every day. You get to work with doctors. You're on your own. Your schedule is yours. I mean, these are a lot of the things that people talk about with, when they tell people about the industry. And for the majority of it, it is true. Obviously, there's much more to it. And there's not just all, sunshine and rainbows. I mean, there's issues like in any position, but it's a very sought after field. So when we post on our recruiting end of RepPath in our recruiting division, whenever we have one job posted, we'll get 300 to 500 applicants within 2 or 3 days. It's absolutely insane, guys. All right. Now, there's a lot of candidates that do not fit the profile. They don't meet the requirements. A lot of candidates don't even read the requirements. But at the end of the day, there's still dozens that are in there that are really good candidates. So you have to make sure that you're doing everything you can to stand out. It's not one or two little things, guys. That doesn't work. Okay. One or two things is not, if it was that easy, then of course everyone would do it. Sorry, guys. Shut off this lighting. Okay. So if it was one or two things, then it would be easy. But it's a lot of small things that come together that help you stand out. And you got to be doing all those little things, because we have seen, especially in the RepPath Academy, where reps get nervous and they'll say, well, Joe, I don't have any experience. How the heck am I going to break in? And then the catch-22, well, if they're not going to let you break in, how are you going to get experience? And I totally understand that. I was in your shoes. But when you do the little things, trust me, guys, These things will help you stand out from someone that has more experience. Because just think about it. If it was only about experience, why even interview? Managers would just get resumes and go, Joe, give me the one that has the most amount of experience. We're going to go with that candidate. Absolutely not. All right. You have to meet the individuals, guys. So whenever you have an interview booked, realize now you have an equal playing field. Now it's your chance to really go out there and shine. And you could outshine that other candidate. And we're going to talk about some of these because the goal is basically the purpose of this call. Doesn't matter if you're just breaking in, doesn't matter if you have 20 years. I want to help you break out from the pack. That's simple. There's just tons of noise out there, tons of candidates. How are you going to be the one that separates yourself from everybody else? So let's walk through some of these tips. One of the first things you have to realize, guys, is that you have to treat this process. The interview process is a sales call. We talk about this a lot on previous podcasts, but you have to really understand it because the purpose of this call too is to get an understanding of the way the managers are thinking, the way recruiters are thinking. Okay, because the more that you understand that, the better you're going to be able to present yourself. And that's exactly what you have to do in medical sales because you're trying to figure out, what's important to your physicians. All right. And then creating a sales approach that actually solves some of their issues, find out what their key drivers are and then sell to those key drivers. And then once you could position yourself and your product as something that's valuable and provides value to the doctor, the patients and his practice, then you're a solution that they're going to keep going to. All right. So it's the same thing with the interview process, guys. You're the product. All right. So you have to sell yourself from all the other competition to let them know why you are the best. Why should they go with you? And the more that you understand that, guys, the better you're going to do throughout this process. So one of the first things that we teach all of our candidates at the RepPath Academy, they are not allowed to just apply to a job. We will never, of course, I'm sure that they still do because they see something, but that isn't the right approach to just do the spray and pray technique and just send your resume out to hundreds of candidates, hundreds of openings. It doesn't work, guys. A lot of you out there are going, I've done that. How come I constantly get ghosted? No one even gets back to me. Even if they do, they get back to me with an automated response. Thank you for applying. Unfortunately, we decided to go with another candidate, whatever the can line is, but at the end of the day, you got nowhere. All right. So absolute non-negotiable. You apply to jobs that you are qualified for. I know this sounds crazy, guys. You have to be within a stone throw away of being qualified. So you have to read the requirements. Some of you out there are going, I read every requirement. That's great. I hope you do. The majority of you do not. All right. Because when you guys send me your resume, you send something over with a very vague description of your background that has nothing to do with what the requirements are that are listed in that job posting. So first thing you do when you are applying to a job and say a recruiter posts a job, you get those requirements, cut and paste the requirements, put them into the body of the email, attach your resume. All right. So they're basically giving you, remember, we're going to always come back to the sales call. This is a sample sales call. They are telling you what they want. All right. If a doctor tells you what he or she wants, I have to answer and address that and give them what they want. All right. So you have to give me what I want. If you don't, that's fine. But if you have 5 requirements and you don't meet 3 of them, don't apply, guys, because you're just wasting your time and you're wasting the recruiter's time. You're wasting the hiring manager's time. Don't. Just focus on the jobs that you're meeting at least 3 out of those 5, at least 60% of those requirements. So when you post those requirements in the body of the email, underneath in a different color, bold it, whatever it is till it separates from the requirement, put how you meet that requirement. If it asks for, 2 years of B2B sales experience, put I have 2.5 years of B2B sales experience at ADP. Done. 4-year college degree. graduate with a 4-year college degree from Villanova with a bachelor's in biology. Okay, done. Quickly put that in there, because what's going to happen, the recruiter, you're making your recruiter's life easier. That recruiter now is going to go, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to cut and paste, send it to the hiring manager to show how you fit all those requirements. And then, of course, me and you're going to have a conversation. I'm going to add some of the notes from our call into that. But at least I have what they were looking for, and I'm addressing it. Right? When you don't do that, when you just fill it in, when you guys apply and say, I'm interested, it's a big no-no, guys, a red flag. Do not do that. Tell me exactly what you're interested in, but show me why you're a fit. Don't give me adjectives. Don't tell me, oh, because I'm a hard worker, I bring a lot of excitement and energy and all this bullshit. It's all adjectives. Don't do that. I want to see facts. I want to see data. Okay. If you're a hard worker, you're going to show me throughout the interview process that you're a hard worker. And then I'll decide if you're a hard worker. We're going to talk about that. But don't just give adjectives. So cut and paste requirements, put the reasons why underneath each, attach your resume, send it to the recruiter. Now, simultaneously though, we are networking. This is the second thing we're doing. Okay. We're not just reaching out to 1 or 2 people that are in the industry or someone that works at that company. No, it's got to be most closely related to that opening. So if it's an entry-level cardiology opening in Boston, I'm looking up who's that hiring manager that I'm supposed to meet with. Or if I don't even know who that is, I'm doing my research on LinkedIn, type it in Boston, type it in the division, the company, and names are going to pop up. Guys, it's not that hard. Once you start playing around on LinkedIn and start, using the different filters, it's going to pop up a couple different names. So at least you'll have an idea without even the HR person, or the recruiter telling you who you're interviewing with. You'll have a pretty good idea. So start reaching out to the reps that are connected or are a primary connection or a secondary connection, whatever they are, whoever's connected to that individual, start reaching out to them, guys. You have to get on the phone with them. Okay. And you have to learn more about that role. Okay. So the simple way to put it is get me the information that you can't get on ChatGPT or Google, right? Because most reps, this is the reps that don't stand out. They go on ChatGPT, they go on Google, they type in the company, the division, they read up on it, they read up on the products. That's all good. Again, that's a non-negotiable too. Of course, you're going to do all that, but that's where the work stops with a lot of these reps. Then sometimes they'll reach out to 1 or 2 people at the company. If they get back to them, great. You have to speak to, your goal is to speak to at least 3 reps that work at that company. And I tell you guys, every single time, the more reps that you speak to, that's your minimum goal. If you could speak to 20 reps, speak to all 20. Take notes, get all the information down, take whatever info they're giving you, is valuable. Okay. Because that's going to help you become a better candidate. The more reps you speak to is a direct correlation to the increased chances you have to get that job. Every time, guys. I can't tell you how many candidates that we've placed that did not have good backgrounds, that were, they didn't have the most experience, that they were able to outshine everyone else because they did this first simple task, which I shouldn't say it's that simple. It takes time. It takes hard work. It takes follow-up. Because a lot of you guys are going to get ghosted the first time, right? Now, again, we're going to go back to the sales call. When you get ghosted and you go, oh, Joe, I tried reaching out. I reached out to like 5 different people. No one got back to me. Really? So when you get in the field, do you think doctors are going to be waiting out front for you, with balloons and candy and saying, oh my God, I'm so excited Joe's here? No, guys, they're going to ghost you too. That's why you got to be persistent. All right. So if you show that, now you're not saying I'm very persistent when you're in the interview. You could say I'm very persistent when you're talking to the hiring manager, and then walk through how I had to reach out to multiple times to many of your team because they're very busy. So it took me a couple of times, but once I got on the phone, I was able to find out a lot of inside great information about the company. Guys, they want to hear that. All right. They want to show your persistence. Don't just say it. So that's a big difference. So you're going to get ghosted. So you have to keep reaching out. You reach out, because I know the next question you guys are going to ask me is, well, Joe, how many times or how often should I reach out? Guys, do it until that person tells you, stop calling me, Joe. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to help you, which no one's going to do. Keep reaching out, guys, because they're busy. Sometimes they could be testing you, but a lot of times they're just busy too. So you have to be persistent. But the takeaway is 3 phone calls with 3 different reps, and you're going to see the information that they give you. And just simply ask each rep, like, what am I asking them? It's great. You want to know a day in the life, but truly ask them, walk me through a day in the life, but what are some of the unexpected things that people don't know about, but you only would learn unless you worked here? What are some of the challenges that you didn't know about until you started working here? Or what are some of the opportunities? When you could talk about the competition, excuse me. Thank you. Sorry. So if you go on Google, if you go on ChatGPT, you could see different drugs in a certain therapeutic class or certain products in a certain therapeutic class, but you don't know who really is the real competition until you start speaking to the doctors. All right. So when I worked at Stereotaxis, I'm looking at all these different products that they can use to do ablations. And I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of different products, so they got all this competition. Excuse me. And simply when I met with one of the reps, when I had a conversation with one of the reps, and I said, who's your biggest competitor? I started naming all the competitors. And he goes, Joe, our competition is a doctor using his hands. I would have never have known that, guys. So again, this is a robotic system that they use a mouse to move a catheter through the heart. Again, really cool stuff. But I thought I'm looking at different products. But now that I went in there knowing that, okay, doctor has a choice of using this robot with a mouse or using a manual catheter using their hands. Once I knew that, then it helped my get a better understanding of what they're really doing. Not so much of a day in the life that I show up at the OR at 7:00 and I stay there until 3. No, we want to get deeper into the real challenges of what's going on and what are the doctors thinking? Why do they like using you? What are the real challenges that you're faced with? So until you have those conversations, guys, you're never going to know. But you want to take those seriously, because you don't also want to take these conversations and just say, well, this guy's here to help me, and I'm going to find some more info and I'm going to just jot it down in a notebook and then regurgitate it when I get in that interview. No, guys, don't forget, you have to treat these like mini interviews. All right. They are going as laid back. They could be very cool with you and be like, hey, Joe, just feel like you're shooting the shit with one of your buddies, and that's great. But realize, guys, they're always being evaluated. So treat it like a mini interview. Take it that seriously. Always trying to sell yourself. When they talk about certain challenges, and this is still part of an interview process. It's not just calling people to reach out. Let them know how you faced this in your past and how you were able to overcome that certain challenge. Show your transferable skills if you're coming from a different industry, where with them just looking on a piece of paper on your resume, they're not going to really see all that. So now's your chance to really talk about how you handle customers, how you were able to handle objections in your last job, how you were able to present. A lot of times they don't know that just by looking at a resume. So you got to constantly be showing why you are the right fit and what values you bring to this role. So just to recap, 3 conversations with these reps. You're writing everything down, taking notes, because when you get in front of that hiring manager, you want to let them know all the work you did, because like we said before, you don't want to get into the adjective world. I'm a hard worker. Okay, great. I'm a hard worker now, followed up by, and that's what I did in this process, because I reached out to 22 reps. I had 6 conversations. I was able to learn this info. Guys, now you're talking in their language because they're relating back to a sales call. You're going to not just have 6 great conversations with doctors and make sales. No, you're going to have to reach out to 60 clinicians before you get 6 users or whatever the math is with your product. But that's the way that their world works. That's the way the medical sales works. So if you're talking that way and showing that's the kind of effort you're putting in, you're someone that gets it. You're someone that they feel more comfortable giving the role to. So don't just say you're a hard worker, show how you've been a hard worker. And if you could show it that what you've done during this process, all the more it's going to help you get to that next level. Okay. Next, in terms of preparation, and this ties in with the information that we've gotten from these reps. Doing a 30, 60, 90. I've said it a million times, guys. Anyone that follows my content, they know how I feel with 30, 60, 90s. If you walk in there with a generic 30, 60, 90, you're better off making a paper airplane out of it and just throwing it out the window. Okay? It's a waste of time. And if you get that and just throw that in front of the hiring manager, and you didn't put any effort into actually solving a need, you did a homework assignment. Homework assignments, guys, that's not going to get you anywhere. We want to create something that is actionable, that they can actually take and go, wow, this is actually a game plan that we could reproduce, or I can actually apply it to this territory, because you got much more granular. You got to the specifics. So if you're doing a 30, 60, 90, and for some of you out there, that's what are you going to do in the first 30, 60, and 90 days when you get the job? All right, that's what a 30, 60, 90 is for some of you that don't know. But when you do that, when you're having those conversations with those reps and learning about the role, you're learning about the real challenges of the territory. So your competitors are going to be in there. But then you're going to go a step further. Who's using your product? So you're going to have the list of doctors, based on your higher priority to your, as much info as you can get to the lower priority physicians, your hospitals that are currently using you versus the ones that you're currently not in. Where is the opportunity? Where are some of them where you're not going to approach because there's a 3-year contract in place that you're never going to get in there? So the more info that you could put in with all those specifics, even in their first 30 days, here's a quick tip that most people do. They'll do a go through company training. That's one of the things that they do in the first 30 days. No shit. Okay. We all are going to do that. But if you can get in deeper, not only listing the company products, but talk about who you're going to be working with in the training department, because you found that out through those conversations that you had, how much more impactful is that, guys? Now, hiring manager's going, wait, he knows that Jill Simmons is the head of training. And then they'll also put learn standard policies and procedures, learn what HR policies are important. A lot of that stuff they throw into these 30, 60, 90s. Now put the names of the people in the HR department. The only way you can do that is by talking to reps that are telling you who you're going to be training with. Who is in charge of training, who is in charge of HR. I'm sure you could maybe look it up, but a lot of times a ton of people pop up when you put in training for a certain company. So that's why you're going to get the right answer by speaking to someone, all right, as opposed to just looking it up. So that's why it's so important. So those 30, 60, 90s, I only sign off on them, guys, if you get that specific info, because you have to say to yourself, if you're looking at this, if I gave this and I actually did approach this job, is this enough information in there where I could be successful in those first 90 days? And a lot of times the answer is no. So don't waste your time with that unless you can get that specific info. Then you could talk to the hiring manager and let him know what extra effort you put in to get this. And this would be your approach, right now, and get their input. Okay. Because it could be a great conversation piece to see how off you are. And you could have fun with it, guys. This is why I created. Here's a list of the physicians that my research has shown me after speaking to Jill, Bob, and Susan, and these are the list of hospitals that I'm going to be targeting. Here are the ones that we have the greatest opportunity. Here are the ones that we have the greatest risk of losing business. And here are the ones that we're not going to even approach right now because of contract issues. See what he says. Like, what are your thoughts? Now you're having a conversation about a territory that you didn't even get the job yet. But how much more are you going to stand out from the rest of the crowd that just gave a generic 30, 60, 90 that they printed on ChatGPT in 30 seconds? Because that's what a lot of people do. They'll put a cool logo at the top for the company header or whatever to show that it's for, XYZ company. Guys, it doesn't do anything. But the ones that put that work in, I'm telling you, I've been a sales leader for years. I work with them all around the country. That's what impresses them. That's what gets you to the top of the list. All right. So I beat that up enough. So I think we got the point there. Next, guys, some of the outside of the box things to do. Because I had a rep do this recently, and because she did this, she got the job. Just that simple. During the interview process, could be before you meet with that manager or after. I suggest the sooner you do things, the better. You get an interview with XYZ company next Friday, especially for some of you guys that are entry level, ones that don't have any medical experience. Go out there and get the experience. Here's the perfect opportunity. Just go. You're not going to say that you work. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to doctor's offices. If you're interviewing with a medical device company that sells a cardiac product in northern New Jersey, I want you to go to cardiologist and try to get in front of a doctor and talk to him about that product. Because number one, it's going to show how challenging it is to just walk in an office and try to get in front of a physician. But it's a good learning experience for a lot of you guys out there. But you never know. And this one rep actually did get in front of a doctor. Someone liked her and said, yeah, you can go in the back. And she got to get in front of the doctor. And she's like, I'm interviewing for this role. I'm sorry. Here's the information I know. I'd love to get your feedback, on what you do. Do you use this product? What do you like about it? Whatever. And she just winged it and then went back and told the hiring manager what she did. And she did this with like 20 different offices. She wound up only having like 2 or 3 conversations, but he was so blown away that she took the initiative to go out there and do that. Do that, guys. Also, it's going to show you again, it's not easy. So you're going to walk in there. It's going to get those nerves that are kicking because you're like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. Trust me. If you can do that and you can get in front of them and have a conversation, you can do this job. But it's showing that you put in the effort, because I'm telling you, 99% of the other reps are not doing that for that role. This is a huge tip, guys, for all you entry-level guys. Go out there and try to make it happen. Let's go back. It's a sales call. The interview process is a sales call. Who am I going to hire? Someone that does have some experience, but didn't reach out to people, didn't go out in front of doctors to learn more about this product, gave me a 30, 60, 90 that was generic, or the person that shows their hunger, shows their work ethic, has had multiple conversations, has given me inside info about what are the real challenges in this role, has gone out there and tried to have conversations with doctors to learn what their thoughts are on this product. Had a 30, 60, 90 that they put together that's very specific for this territory. You do that, guys, you are light years ahead of everyone else. Just do that for every role. That's why we don't want you doing 100 different companies, applying to 100 different ones, because you're never going to be able to do all this. This shit takes time. So make sure that you're focusing on those 3 to 5 companies that you could go out there and get all this info, do all this work, because I'm telling you, it's going to help you go further in the process. Okay. Next. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Next is quantifying everything, guys. Again, when you're in sales, it's all about the numbers. Okay. They care about 4 key things in sales. This is not even just medical. They care about what your rankings are, what your percent to quote is, what your growth is, sales growth, month over month, year over year, whatever you're measuring. And lastly, your awards. Those are the 4 key things that they care about. So when you're talking to a hiring manager, you're not going to say there, I was a top performer at my last company. No, I was ranked number 2 out of 74 reps. I achieved quota, 15 out of 16 quarters. I grew the territory 430% in 3 years. That's the way they talk. That's the lingo. That's what they care about. They care about rankings, guys, and you should care about rankings because at a lot of companies, that's how you're paid. In the pharmaceutical world, a lot of companies have a bonus pool. So they'll have a bonus pool of dollars that they distribute to their team every quarter. So depending on where you're ranked, a lot of times that means more bonus dollars. Now, a lot of companies have just straight up commissions where you're going to get X amount of money based on what you sell. But especially when you're launching products, when there's not, the company has to lose some money at first, but they got to incentivize reps. So they'll have a bonus pool of dollars that they're going to distribute. So the higher you're ranked, the more money you're going to get. So that's why rankings are very important. Rankings are also very important when it comes to President's Club. So they're going to have the top 10%, or maybe the top 20% of the reps that usually it's not that high. It could just be the top 25 reps, depending on how big the team is. But a certain number are going to make President's Club. They don't just make up those numbers out of thin air. It's based on the rankings. That's the top reps are the ones that are going to go on those trips. So if you're talking that way, you're already showing them, I think like a medical sales rep. I know what's important. I know it's about competition and being the best. So when you're giving answers, don't be vague. Again, I was a top performer. No. Say, yeah, I was a top performer. I was ranked 2 out of 56. I grew X amount of percent in a couple of years. I achieved, 130% to quota, each quarter. I was a 3-time President's Club winner. You're talking about your results. That's the way they want to see those answers, guys. So make sure you're answering like that, when you're having these conversations. Next one is a brag book, guys. Now, this is something that a lot of you old school reps out there, this is something we always had to do. If you go back to the late 90s, early 2000s, you always had your brag book. Your brag book is your list of all your accomplishments. So usually it would be, printing out your numbers that you were doing well, your rankings, all the stuff we talked about. It could be, positive emails from a manager. It could be promotions that you talk about that you printed out in an email, letters of recommendation from physicians, whatever it is, you compile it, put it all into a folder, and then we go to meetings, go to interviews, and then you present your brag book in the interview. When, in the appropriate times of the interview. But over the years, that kind of went to the wayside where a lot of managers don't expect it. Now, let's be real. I was the type of manager that, I always was skeptical. Did someone create this online last night? And I know anything could be created now, especially with ChatGPT. But still, I'd rather see you go in there with this brag book, have a digital one, one that you save onto a zip drive or whatever, you email it to yourself, save it to a file on your computer. Also have the hard copy, which you could print out and even hand to hiring managers into a folder or talk about it throughout the interview. But have a brag book because no one does this anymore, guys. They don't. A lot of managers don't ask for it, but just because they don't ask for it anymore doesn't mean you shouldn't create that, because you are going to stand out when you have that. The more that you have the proof, the more that you're showing all your numbers, and you want to show that off, the better. Again, let's get back to the sales call. When I'm going there and I'm showing the proof in my brag book, it's the same thing as showing a clinical report or a study or whatever literature that you're showing. Doctors love that. That's the proof source. So when you're talking to a doctor and saying, our drug is the best, it's number 1, it could do this, it could do that, they're going to go, all right, Joe, slow down. Show me the literature. That means show me the studies. So you're going to go in there with your studies. You're going to point to the areas why you're so effective and how many people you had in this study and what were the results. It's the same thing by showing your brag book. Here's the proof. Here's the literature. I got it right here. So again, they're going to love this, guys. So make sure you get a brag book. If you just started in a job, from day 1, don't let 2 years go down and then go, shit, I got to go through all these emails again and print out all this paperwork. Do it from the first day. Whenever you get something that you had an accomplishment, something that you're going to put in your resume, anything on your resume should be in your brag book. That's simple. That's your proof source. Because you could put down 5-time President's Club winner. Where's your proof? I could ask reps that. Well, where's your proof? Show me your brag book. A lot of them will probably be like, oh shit, I don't have one. So make sure you have that proof because it's going to help you stand out. One of the last things before we start answering some questions, guys, this is just a simple one, but it's going to help you stand out. We talk about this a lot too. Sending a thank you email is mandatory after every interview. Okay. Now you don't want to formulate it as a thank you. All right. Everyone gives a thank you. Of course, you're going to mention thank you for your time and all that stuff, but it's more of a recap and a setup for the next steps. That's the way you have to really have this mapped out, guys. You're going to thank them for their time. You're going to recap what you talked about, and maybe even offer again another sentence or two of how you are the perfect fit based on what they're talking about. But most importantly, talking about the next steps and what you're going to follow up with, for that next interview. But you always want to move the process along, but treat a thank you letter, not just a thank you email, not just as a thank you, but also a recap of what happened. And if you really want to stand out, because we're all going to do that on every interview, everyone does that. How many of you are sending a thank you before the interview? And I will guarantee that less than 10% of you are doing it. All right. So when you have an interview set up a couple of days before, you have to try to get that manager's email. A lot of you are going to say, well, Joe, they didn't give me their email. Figure it out, guys. Contact that recruiter. Figure out some of the other conversations that you should have been having with other reps. Get that email. Get it. Be persistent, guys. Make this a non-negotiable with yourself. You got to get that email. You want to reach out to that manager ahead of time, letting them know how excited you are, how enthusiastic you are for this role. And is there anything else you'd like for me to prepare, for this meeting? Guys, I'm telling you, you're going to blow their minds with that because no other reps are going to do it. You're showing a couple of things. Number one, you're showing how excited you are. All right. You're showing enthusiasm. Why is that important? Because a lot of hiring managers, their biggest fear, and they call me all the time. I have stud reps that I send to them and they call me like, Joe, I'm kind of nervous. Yeah, she was great. She has 10 years experience. She run multiple President's Clubs. She's got all these relationships, but excuse me, she didn't seem that excited about the role. Like it seemed like I didn't feel her enthusiasm for this. Excuse me. So now you can have another candidate with less experience, but really wants it. I want that person on my team. So by sending that thank you ahead of time, it shows that you're excited. You could outright put in there, I'm excited. I have so much enthusiasm for this. I can't wait. Just that alone shows like, I don't even meet this guy, Joe, but now I want to meet him, and then when you come with that energy, that positive energy, and you're showing how much, and then you start talking about, all the stuff that you've done in your past and why you're the perfect fit for this. And on top of that, with all the people you spoke to, so now you have inside knowledge, all these things start to add up, guys. Now you're becoming the top person, to take over this role. So send a thank you ahead of time. It's going to show all that. It's also you're putting it back on your customer. Again, back to the sales call. We always want to find out what our doctor's key drivers are. Simply going in there in the first meeting and say, doctor, what's important to you? What do you care about most for your practice and your patients? Sometimes I'll make a joke, but sometimes they talk about things that they're really interested in that you never would have known because you didn't ask. Same thing here. The hiring manager could say, actually, you know what, Joe, don't bring in a 30, 60, 90. I don't care about those things, but what I would like, if you have any documentation from previous managers, because I've had this, if you could come in with any documentation from a previous manager, that helps illustrate, who you are or what would they say about you. Yeah, I'd like to see that. You don't know, guys. So that it is a great opportunity because now you're finding out what they want, and then you're going to provide a solution to what their key drivers are. All right, so I'll shut up now. James, any questions from the crowd?
Joe, you had a lot to say this week. It was a great
Chatterbox. Bears won.
This is great. It was a great episode. Lots of good feedback.
Thank you.
We have I have my first interview next week with Stryker. I'm honestly terrified. Can you give me one thing that I need to nail?
One thing you need to nail with Stryker and any other company, it's getting on the phone with those people, getting on the phone with those reps and finding out more insight about that role, and then positioning yourself as the solution to that role. But that is always the key. It's getting on the phone with more reps to learn more about the role, learn more about that hiring manager, to find out what he or she does, what they like or dislike. That is key, guys. So if there's one takeaway, it's having those multiple conversations with those reps and getting that inside info.
We got Dam5967 on YouTube says, can you speak to whether pharma marketing experience would set me apart in pharma sales role? What would be an effective method to leverage that experience and turn it into a sales role?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you have marketing experience, marketing and sales this day and age, guys, it's very similar. It's kind of changed from back in the day when we were kids. They had true marketing ads. Like if you guys ever watch Mad Men, you always see those. They have the ads that they were creating. That was the marketing team, and then sales goes out there and just sells it. Now it's kind of intertwined more, So, but if you have a good marketing background, that can translate into a great sales background because you understand what customers want. And that's what's important. The marketing teams should be compiling information to get their data and say okay, this is what our physicians are looking for. So if you have that kind of background, that kind of expertise, and now you got to just translate that and how you're going to take that and apply it to a sales role. I mean, that's important to me. I know if I have marketing individuals, especially you've been in pharmaceutical marketing, so you have a real good understanding of what the lay of the land is like and what the challenges are, and now you could take that into a sales role. Absolutely. That's a great opportunity. Letting them know that you have a good understanding with examples of what your customers want, what your physicians want, and be able to translate that in the interview, you'll do really well.
Coming from pharma, do med device interviewers look down on that, or can I spin it as a positive?
With this same situation?
I don't know if they just asked it. They said they're coming from pharma. Do med device interviewers look down on that, or can you spin it in a positive way?
Yes, they do. So not everyone, but this is guys, you can hate me for saying this, but this is tough love and it's real. And I was someone that went from pharma into device, but most medical sales hiring managers, they do not respect pharma reps as much as someone with a device background. All right. And the reason being, they create a stigma that pharma reps are lazier than device reps. And of course, there's some reps that probably are, but there's also probably a lot of device reps that are lazier. The difference is the device reps typically are in the OR. They're working longer hours. They a lot of times are working more hands-on with the doctor in the cases. So it is more intense. They absolutely have to be at procedures a lot of times, or the doctors can't even use their products. Now, some, they don't have to be there, but a lot of times you actually have a case, you have to be at that case. There's a lot of people depending on you. So there's a lot more demand. A lot of times a pharma rep, yeah, of course, they got to go to certain lunches. They got to go to meetings. But a lot of times they do have days where it's you're supposed to be out there selling. Do they have to be there today for the doctor's day to go on? No. If you don't show up, the doctor might prescribe your drug. Or if not, if you're out of sight, he's going to prescribe another drug. So that's where they create this, pharma reps are lazier mentality. So a lot of times they don't want to hire a pharma rep. Now, the flip side is there's a lot that do. Now, for some of you that have experience, and you've been calling on say, I'll use cardiologists again for 5 years. I mean, this is how I got my first device role. I didn't have device experience. I was a pharma rep, but I had a lot of pain management experience. So they loved me because I called on a lot of these doctors and had good relationships with a lot of these pain specialists. They didn't care about my background from pharma. They said, we want Joe on our team because he has the relationships. So that would be the first thing. If you're in the industry and you're transitioning, I would focus on roles where you already are calling on that therapeutic area, and then really talk about your relationships and your knowledge, of course, in that space. But that'll help you, transition from pharma into device. But if you don't have that, again, it's all about understanding what that day in the life is with that device rep and what they do, but knowing details and then showing how you have those same transferable skills and how you've done it in the past, whatever that challenge is, whatever those requirements are, and then being able to illustrate that, and you should do really well. But it's not easy. That is something that I'm very clear with. It's easier for reps that are in device that want to transition into pharma than pharma reps transitioning into device. But it still happens all the time, guys. There's a ton of reps out there that do it. I'm one of them. So I know a lot of you out there, but what the hell is he talking about? I came from pharma and I'm in device. Yeah, I'm just saying overall, it is more challenging because of the way these managers think.
We got Robert Chladlini. I have a healthcare background, got an MD heading into industry instead of residency and patient care. For the metrics, can we showcase numbers of patients managed, number of prescribed drugs, etc.?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, any sales minded person is numbers driven, results driven. So anything you can illustrate in your background that shows that, absolutely. I would also focus on growth, from if you work, because this happens a lot of times with people that, are marketing people for doctor's offices. And you could talk about how when you started where the practice was, how many patients your doctor was working with, and then based on your efforts, how much you were able to grow that. Now, essentially, it's not exactly sales, but yeah, it's showing that you were there. You were point A, you were in one position, and then you were able to grow it to whatever it was in point B in that certain time period. So always anything that you can focus on metrics is the takeaway that it's only going to help you. So definitely.
Pool Jonas said that about the last topic, that's the greatest thing I've ever learned, and I've never thought of that. Thank you. And Robert also added, also, how would you recommend translating deep clinical experience for commercial? I have not intention of medical affairs or clinical research.
You gotta repeat that one. I'm sorry, James.
It's all right. How would you recommend translating deep clinical experience for commercial? I have not intention of medical affairs or clinical research.
So again, like anything else, if you're talking about in the interview, you could easily do that, and that's just by describing your deep clinical experience, but how it relates, if you're going to do that in an interview, that's great. It's great to showcase that. But one of the challenges, because I've actually helped many physicians that didn't want to become a doctor, they were done with the owning their own practice, or they worked for a practice. It was challenging. Like I actually had a few chiropractors in the past couple of months that they wanted to get out of that space because of all the challenges of owning your own practice. And now they're great clinically. And so they're going to know that, guys, that when they interview someone with a MD, with a DC, or whatever your expertise is, they could see that just by the letters after your name. They know, okay, your odds are you're going to be very good clinically. So you don't want to make that your only focus. They want to see that you can sell. That's great that you have the clinical background, but you got to just talk more about other things too. you definitely talk about the clinical side, but if you just come in all clinical, then they will look at you as like, all right, maybe this is just more of a, a medical science liaison type of hire, which we don't have any openings right now, but I'm looking for a real sales rep. And that's what the majority of the openings are. So you want to also highlight, your ability to help convince people how to change people's habits. A lot of times as a clinician, you're selling every day because you're talking to patients. A lot of time, I know I worked with doctors when we sold, we had Avinza, which was out over 20 years ago, and it was competing against Oxycontin. And I would go into offices, and I remember this one time, this office in Newark, this Dr. C actually goes, Joe, I still don't have a patient. I'm like, what am I missing? He goes, hey, Joe, come with me in the room. He actually invited me in the exam room, told the patient that I'm a rep, and is it okay if I observe? Patient said, fine. At the end of the call, he goes, okay, so I know you're on Oxycontin, but I'm going to switch you to this once a day medication. It's outstanding. Gave all the benefits. He sold it just as good, if not better than I could sell it. And the patient, of course, back then, a lot of patients didn't want to go off their Oxy, was like, no, do not change. I have to stay on my Oxys. And I watched it, and I watched him try to sell the patient. And it took real convincing, to try to get this patient to switch. So a lot of times, guys, that's what you're doing. You are convincing. It's the same thing as convincing a doctor. All day long, you're convincing, you're talking to patients, you're easing their concerns, you're handling their objections. These are all sales techniques. So don't diminish your expertise that you probably don't even realize you have. You just got to be able to be cognizant of that and be able to talk about those transferable skills. So don't just go all clinical. Talk about the sales transferable skills that you've accomplished over the years. And if you need help with that, obviously that's what we're here for. So you could reach out and we could discuss that.
We have Joe, I'm 42 years old, switching from B2B software. Am I too old for this? Give it to me straight.
No, but it depends on what you want. Number one, you gotta appreciate that odds are you're gonna have to take a step back going into another industry. So if you're okay with that, and I know it depends on how big of a step back that is, but if you're okay with that and you really want it, absolutely you're not too old, but you have to be realistic. If you think you're going to be making, say you're making $200,000 a year in your tech role, and now you're coming into a pharma role, they're not going to just hand you $200,000 because you want to make a career switch. Odds are they could find someone a lot cheaper, that does have more relationships, that does have more contacts, more experience. So you got to be, if you're going to do that, you just got to just make a note that you're going to have to take a step back. And if you're willing to take a step back, then definitely you can make that switch.
We have the hiring manager said we'll be in touch, and it's been over 8 days. Do I follow up, or is that annoying?
Well, number one, the first mistake is when you leave that interview, you should know what the next step is. You can't leave there based on a half-ass. Well, we'll get back to you. Thanks, nice for meeting you, Joe. We're gonna get back to you after review. Everyone, oh, thanks, Bob. I'll wait to hear from you. And you failed that test. Okay, again, guys, back to being a sales call. Every time you leave a doctor, you have to have a next step. You have to have a follow-up. You have to tell them that. Yep. Oh, you're gonna try this with the next 3 patients. Great. I'll come back next Friday. Same time works, so we can get that information, because by then, they should see enough patients. But I have a follow-up, and I'm going to come in, because when I come in the next time, because they're always going to look to push back at the front desk, say, what are you doing here? Oh, no, I discussed with Dr. Jones last week that to come back in at the exact same time at 3:00 to follow up on a couple of patients that we're working on. Okay, that's what you need to do. Same thing is when you're leaving that interview, you need to know what are the next steps. Where are you in the process? You always want to close to get that next step for that next interview. But if you're doing that, then it shouldn't matter about 8 days, 7 days. You're following up when they said they should have an answer by. And it's never annoying, guys. Never. Again, common sense. You don't send 50 emails in a day saying, hey, I still didn't hear from you. I still didn't hear from you. But if they said by next week, we should know, when next week comes, you reach out to them. That's simple.
We got, what if you genuinely don't know the answer to a clinical question mid-interview?
And just say that. Don't, guys, listen, I get it. Sometimes you want to fake it till you make it. You're taking a big risk with doing that in an interview if you really don't know the answer. Just say, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'll find out for you. And that's a great way when you're following up after the interview for the next steps, recapping in that thank you that you're going to find out that information that you didn't know in the interview, and then getting back to them in a timely manner with that information. So don't be kicking yourself in the ass saying, oh, I screwed up. I didn't know that. I definitely failed. No, guys, that could be great because it's a reason to follow up. So don't be on yourself because you didn't know everything. That happens. Sometimes you just have a brain freeze in the interview, like, shit, I know this, but why can't I think? It's okay, guys. It's not the end of the world. Their managers are human too. So they don't automatically cross you off. But now you want to make sure you're going to follow up. Put it in the recap and then make sure you're following up. And now you just got 2 contacts, or a reason to follow up with that manager, which you should look at as a huge, huge upside.
I got a couple more for you. With my 4 years in pharma marketing background, this is from Dam5967 again. With my 4 years of pharma marketing background and my MBA in progress, open having challenges out competing others for sales roles who have previous sales experience, should I aim entry level?
I'm trying to follow that. That's hard to follow.
Yep, I'll put it on the screen for you. With my 4 years in pharma marketing background and my MBA in progress, open having challenges out competing others for sales roles who have previous sales experience, should I aim for entry level?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to look. This is where it comes down to, this is Dan.
Dam and 5967.
Okay. So this is where you have to make sure that you're reading the actual requirements. If they ask about an MBA, then talk about your MBA. But if you're not meeting any of these requirements, it doesn't matter entry, what experienced rep, go by the requirements first and see how much of a fit you are. And if it's a lot of these roles, these experience roles, you're not a fit and you're more fit for entry level, then that's the reality. Then apply to those roles. Because if you're constantly applying to all experience roles because you're going for an MBA and you think that that's really important to you, which could be great, but a lot of these roles might not even ask for it. So they don't care about the MBA, especially a lot of sales roles. They don't put in, want to see an MBA. Usually that's in a management position, marketing positions, but a lot of times with that, they don't care for sales. They want hunters. They want people that are out there, generating business, driving revenue. So if you don't have all that, again, I would let the requirements dictate, and give you a somewhat of a direction. And it's okay. You can apply to both. Again, not to hundreds, but apply to a couple entry-level roles. And if you're getting responses for interviews, excuse me, odds are that's like we talked about. Sometimes you got to take a step back if you want to go too forward. So I would just do that because you never know. I mean, until you apply, you're not going to know. So I would apply to some of those entry-level roles because if you're not getting feedback from anyone, you're not getting any interviews, odds are you could be shooting in the wrong direction.
Joe, the last question, Robert Kalandi, he wants to know, does RepPath have on-demand modules for helping clinical professionals translate their experience, metrics, stories for the entire interview process?
Yes. We have multiple modules that there's not one module that covers everything that you just said, but we have over 15 modules and then there's almost close to 20 total topics, but we cover everything you just described and more. So yes, we can handle that for you.
Also, you get weekly access to Joe. You get
Yes.
calls with
Well,
Joe and coaching strategy calls with him. So it's not just the
absolutely.
modules. He'll be able to walk you through all of that.
Yes. Thank you, James. We do, just because that's a great point, James. We do weekly, 2 calls a week on every Tuesday and Thursday. So this is great access to me and my coaches. So you could really ask those challenging, situational, hey, Joe, this is what I'm going through. I mean, this is what we're here for, guys. This isn't just some online platform that once you sign up, you never hear from me again. No, we're heavily involved, and you're going to be on the phone with us every Tuesday, every Thursday. And that's what we're really helping you get to that next level. So we combine both the live training with the online training modules, and that combination has enabled us and to help thousands break into this industry.
Yeah, and you'll sit there and go through and leverage all that information and help build their resume with them.
Absolutely.
A lot of these coaching programs are just, here's all the videos, you figure it out. Joe's with
That's
you
it.
the entire step of the way.
100%. And nothing's more frustrating because I don't know. Every time I get instructions to do, I mean, for instance, we just got a Tesla and they just give it to you and say, go. I mean, no one is that intelligent that they just get in the car, and it's a very simple car to work through, but you have to look at videos. I call friends that have them already and say, hey, wait, I'm having a problem here. And one of my buddies always walks me through that stuff. So that's what we're there for. We're not just to just set it and forget it with you. We're here to walk you through the process and help you succeed.
And there's also a community of people like you that are in the same spot, and you'll be able to bounce questions off of them as well.
100%. I mean,
But
there's
Joe,
other.
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. The RepPath community is so strong, guys, and so valuable because there's a lot of situations or a lot of answers that another candidate could give during one of our calls, say for prepping for an interview, and be like, wow, I never thought of that. And now it's like, wow, I'm gonna use that and take that to XYZ company, or next time I have an interview, I'm gonna say what he just said. That's great, guys. That's what we're here for. Sometimes they talk about openings that aren't listed yet, that they just interviewed with a company and they told them about an expansion that's happening next month. They share it with the community. So whole goal is strengthen numbers. And we're here to all get to that same goal, which is to break in or advance in your career. And we're all here to help you out.
Dan the Man 1674. He wants to know if those Tuesday and Thursday meetings are they group consultations? This is very helpful.
Yes, they are. So it's group calls, but we are able to cover. I've never had a topic that we weren't able to cover on those calls. So everyone's there to help each other out. But whatever challenges you have, we're not going to forget you. We're going to get to your challenges too and be able to help you. You're not going to be drowned out by all the other questions. We get to everyone and make sure that they feel comfortable before that next step in the process.
Yep. And Joe is a great resource if you're trying to get into medical sales. That's all I got for you today. Actually, real quick, Joe, you're telling me these lunatics let you get in a Tesla and use the self-drive without teaching you how to do it?
They did. They did.
It makes me feel even less safe.
I know. Well, I honestly, until I got in this and see how good these cars really move, it doesn't matter if you like Teslas, you don't like Teslas. Guys, until you get into one of these self-driving cars, it is mind-blowing. You literally put the address in. All you got to do, you can't fall asleep because there's a camera watching to make sure your eyes are open, but you don't touch the steering wheel, you don't touch the pedals, and it'll take you right to that destination. Park the car in the closest spot, and that's it. All you do is get out and you're good. You want to go home, click home, takes you home. It's pretty amazing.
You can kind of say that RepPath is the Tesla of breaking into medical sales.
Very true. Absolutely. I love it.
There you go.
I love it.
Yeah, that's all I got for you today, Joe. We close out the show.
Awesome, man. Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and thanks for all your questions. Again, every Monday and Wednesday, guys, we're going to be doing these at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I hope you all can join. Any questions about the RepPath Academy, please go on reppath.com or send me a DM on LinkedIn. And, we want to get you signed up and get you going. Now's the time. I know a lot of New Year's resolution, a lot of companies, they are active. They are actively hiring as of the first week of January, because I had a bunch of openings that were on hold that now are re-engaged. So now it's go time, guys. Reach out to us. No more excuses, no more delays. Get signed up. We are going to help you break in. And any of you that are lobby members, please make sure that you share the promo code Licata, Licata, because that'll enable you to get additional discounts. But that's it for today, guys. I thank you so much. Again, thank you to James. And I hope you guys have a great week. And hopefully you're joining again on Wednesday. Have a great day, guys. Take care.